Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This is Sunday Satsang, June 27th, 28, 2026, Bhakti Sandarbha class on shade 156. And the topic here of this honored shade 156 is that when devotees face difficulty, they should not lose their faith. So the commentary by Sri Satyanarayana Babaji Maharaj says, it's seen that many devotees living in Vrindavan, past and present, get diseases and even legal troubles. But by seeing this, one should not lose faith in those devotees or in the process of Bhakti Bhajan. Devotees don't care about getting protected from such troubles by utilizing the power of Bhakti. Neither do devotees want to be known as great devotees. One should be extremely careful in making judgments about them. It is not easy to understand the behavior of great devotees. But a doubt may be raised in this regard. We understand that devotees don't pray to Krishna to remove their personal problems. But why doesn't Krishna automatically keep trouble from coming to a devotee? In other words, if we're Krishna's devotees, we're devotees of God, so God should take care of his family. Just like a father doesn't want any trouble coming to his children. He tries everything he can do to prevent them from getting any legal or physical or any kind of trouble or difficulty in their life. That's his ambition and desire. So why does Krishna not do that? If Krishna truly loves, here's more of the argument, if Krishna truly loves his devotees, why doesn't he remove their problems, even if he's not asked to? The reply is that Krishna has different reasons for such behavior. One reason Krishna doesn't take away problems is to increase devotees' absorption in him. Sometimes he neglects the devotee to discourage unqualified people from taking up bhakti. Because some people will exploit bhakti further on. They say, look, these devotees, they never get in trouble, they're always protected. So let me become a devotee. So I never get in. Then, but they'll do that. Those kind of motivated people have malevolent intentions, bad intentions to actually do something bad, and depend on Krishna to make it good or to protect them. So people that may contemplate taking up Bhakti Bhajan to get Krishna's protection and freedom from reaction and difficulties will see advanced devotees having difficulty, getting diseases, getting sick. They'll say, wait a minute, this Bhakti doesn't work. If Bhakti doesn't work, even advanced devotees are getting sick. You know, we see very advanced devotees in Vrindavan, they get sick. They have terminal disease, but they still go on their bhakti. And so people might get discouraged. Oh, what's the point with their bhaktis of Krishna, Radharani, and Krishna not taking care of them. So that Krishna has that deliberately to keep all any insincere, motivated, materialistic people away from the sacred path of bhakti. Because bhakti, where does bhakti lead to? Bhakti leads right into the heart of Krishna. It leads right to Radharani and into Krishna's heart. So Krishna puts up a lot of blocks and impediments to allow anyone to enter his heart. Because bhakti means the way of entering Krishna's heart. Krishna, why he neglects devotees is to show that the steadiness of devotees who are not deterred from bhakti no matter what kind of trouble they have. It's like the story of Haridas Thakur. The Muslim whoever in charge of that Navadvip magistrate, he wanted to punish Haridas Thakur by having him taken to all the what they call hati was a bazaar. Bazaar called Hat or something like that. You know, marketplace. So he wanted, because that's for all the public, that's how you can spread the news out. So the Qazi wanted to spread the news to all the people. This is what happens to someone who converts to Hinduism from Muslim religion. He gets beaten to death. So that's a way of like broadcast sending, you know, like internet, making something viral. So he went from marketplace to marketplace. And they beat him practically to death. At that time, Haridas Thakur said, Kanda Kanda, you can chop my body into millions of pieces, but I'll never stop taking shelter and we're worshiping the holy name of Krishna. So Haridas Thakur showed by his own example extreme nishtha in bhakti. He wouldn't give up bhakti for anything. He'd rather die before he give up bhakti. So one of the things that happens when one becomes offensive, the person becomes absorbed in objects unrelated to devotion, which erode one's fixity of devotion. So that's continued in Anushade 157. These are all the 5 effects of aparadhs. One is absorption in objects unrelated to bhakti. Many times devotees, they lose their taste for bhakti because of offenses. And they start taking up physical development. They start taking up weightlifting and you know, and they get into sports or they get into some extraneous activity. And they think they say it's for health, but it's actually, they get some effect. They lost that taste for bhakti, that nishtha, because of some offense. So he's saying this is the 3rd effect of aparadha. Become absorbed in things that are not related to bhakti. He gives the example of Bharad Maharaj. He was the eldest son of Bhagavan Rishabhadev, who was a great king and devotee. Bharad renounced his kingdom. He was a young man. He went to the Gandaki River, which is in Nepal, Himalayas, and started worshipping Shalagram and meditating on Bhagavan. But he saw a lion chasing a deer. The deer got afraid and tried to jump over the river, but where it was narrow at one point. But she dropped her baby, had a miscarriage in the river. The lion got frustrated because he couldn't jump the river, didn't want to get wet for some reason. And he left the baby deer, he just ran away, the lion ran away. So Bharad Maharaj took that baby deer to his ashram and took care of it. Which is okay, it's not wrong to do that. But the problem is, he became absorbed in the deer and gave up his bhakti. Because the mind can only be attached to one thing at a time. It cannot be attached to material things and Bhagavan at the same time. One will win over the other. Okay, guys. Okay. So the Bhagavatam says that this occurred, that this means Bharad became attached to the deer because of some karma, past karma. But Jiva Goswami comments that karma is weaker than bhakti. That's why a good astrologer, what do astrologers deal with? They deal with karma. So when a devotee goes to an astrologer, he shows their karmic chart of birth, a kundali, and they make predictions. Usually an honest devotee inclined astrologer will say, well, if you're a materialistic person, I would say this would happen. But because you're under Krishna's shelter, I can't be convinced this is going to happen. Usually it doesn't happen. It happens in a different way. So they're a little careful and cautious to make predictions with a devotee chart, with a chart of a devotee. So Jiva Goswami says Bharat was doing bhakti, so how did this karmic desire attachment to a deer? So he said, it's not karma, it was a result of an offense to bhakti. He was doing bhakti, made some kind of offense, which impeded his bhakti and made him become absorbed in the deer. Another example is King Indradyumna. He offended Agastya. He was born as an elephant. He identified as an elephant and forgot about bhakti, became absorbed in material things, like being elephant stuff.
Elephant stuff.
Being elephant. And, position, power, king of the jungle, all that. So he goes on to say, taking care of a baby deer is not wrong. His mistake is he got absorbed in it and neglected his meditation on Bhagavan. He thought of himself as a savior of a meditation on Bhagavan. He thought of himself as a savior of the deer, protector, forgetting that Bhagavan is the savior. He was merely an instrument. This defect was consider himself merciful, independent of Bhagavan. So basically, Bharat Maharaj's defect was attitude, his mentality. That's why it's always important to remember, I am not the doer. Krishna tells in Gita 18th chapter, 11th chapter, universal form, he tells Arjuna, nimitta matram. He says, be an instrument of my will. Whatever is going on, it's always the mercy of Krishna. He's doing everything. We're an observer. We're in it for the ride. Krishna's a taxi driver. We're the passenger. So this next Anushade 158 explains how Bhagavan intensifies the devotee's karma. That's really good, huh? We already have so much karma harassing us. Krishna makes it even stronger. Or does he? That's what's being discussed. Many people are of the opinion that Krishna personally intensifies the devotees' prabdha karma to increase their longing to attain him. Is this true or false?
It feels true.
Yeah.
Why?
Okay, let's see what we got here. The Bhagavad, in fact, describes this happening in the case of Bharat. Another example is seen in Narada's past life. Although he attained a state of rati, dawning of love, a trace of impurity was seen and preserved, was said to be preserved in his case. An example is given in first canto of Bhagavatam, chapter 6, verse 22. Vishnu appeared to, gave darshan to Narada Muni and then disappeared, and he tried to meditate and capture that darshan again. He couldn't get darshan, he couldn't see again. So Vishnu came as a Akashvani, its aerial voice. He said, listen boy, because he was a boy, you're not going to see me again in this life until all your impurities are burned out. So the impurity of his was very slight. It's called Van Vasana. Narada Muni had Vanvasana. He liked to live in a sattvic place. He was attached to living in the forest, mode of goodness. Because of that, he couldn't get another darshan. So he was always hankering and longing. And hankering and longing to see Vishnu destroyed that desire to live in the forest. That's the commentary that's given in the Bhagavatam. Okay. Jiva Goswami was not really satisfied with the explanation of Bharat's attachment to the deer. So it must have been due to that past offense. Look at the life of Bharat. He was situated in a very high platform of bhakti. They say Bhakti Abbas, Baba Vas, like practically Baba. In the 5th canto, it describes ecstatic symptoms of divine love that manifested in him while he was doing bhakti. That means Baba. It's hard to believe that some tiny little offense from that had overpowered his bhakti. Also it said, Jiva Goswami said in Anam Shade 153, as long as there's offenses, symptoms of Baba will never manifest in one. The fact that he had symptoms of Baba suggests in reality he was free from offense. So Jiva gives an alternate explanation for Bharata's diverting his attention from Bhagavan. He says, Krishna appeared as a deer. Pretty amazing. It was Krishna's will that Bharat's attention. In other words, Krishna himself appeared as the deer who attracted the mind of Bharat. So when Krishna becomes a deer, everyone becomes attracted. What's the proof in Bhagavatam?
All the Gopals and calves.
Yeah, when Brahma stole all the coward boys and the calves, what happened?
All the mothers were so attracted and their milk was natural.
Krishna became the calves.
Yeah.
So the mothers became, although they had new calves, new baby calves, they became one. They gave up the baby calves and ran to Krishna in the form of a calf, older calf. Yeah, he was like 1-year-old calf. They were new babies, they gave up. Because Krishna, when he becomes a calf, he's all attractive calf. Krishna calf, all attractive. So that's what Jiva Goswami said. Because Krishna became a deer. So if Krishna becomes a deer, they were worshiping a deer, worshiping Krishna.
So he never lost his bhajan.
Yeah, I guess so. Just you worshiping the Krishna deer Murti. Krishna became a Murti, became a personality, accepted his love and kindness and worship.
He takes birth as a deer in the next life.
He took birth as a deer in next life.
Yeah. Not as beautiful as Krishna deer. So who other than Bhagavan could attract Bharat's mind away from Bhagavan? The devotee's mind is attracted to Krishna, even if he's not manifest in his original form. Okay. What else we have? Narada Muni's problem was, Jiva Goswami said, he had sattvic predilection for living in the forest. It means called Vanvasana. Vasana means predilection, interest, desire, inclination. So when Narada heard he wouldn't see Vishnu, what happened? He doubled down on his meditation. He got more serious. So, okay, I'll show you, I'll meditate like crazy. Devotion is exclusively concerned with the intensity of loving feeling. And ultimately, it's this feeling alone that captivates Bhagavan and brings him under the devotee's control. Krishna reveals this principle to the gopis in the Bhagavatam, 10th canto, chapter 32, verse 20. That's an important point. The intensity of loving feeling is the main point of devotion. That's what is feeling alone that captivates and controls Krishna. When the gopis asked Krishna when he left them in the rasa dance, "What kind of lover are you?" And they gave 4 different types of lovers for Krishna to choose from. It was a quiz, a love quiz. There were 4 possible answers, A, B, C, or D. And Krishna didn't answer any of them. He made up his own answer. He said, "No, I don't accept all these lovers. They're all bogus. I'm a different kind of lover." And then this part of the answer he gave is this: "Oh, Sakis, I do not immediately reciprocate love with those who love me. Why do I do that? Because I want them to remain constantly absorbed and meditating on me. This is like a poor person who suddenly gets money and then loses that money, will become very much absorbed in thought of the lost wealth, not thinking of anything else." So the gopis had Krishna. He called them to the rasa dance. They all met. They walked on the banks of the river. They enjoyed. They disappeared. They lost him. So that Krishna was the ultimate wealth, the Madan. They lost him, so they became very attached to him. Every single gopi became one-pointed in their attachment to him. They gave up all their envy and rivalry and everything. So many purposes accomplished by that disappearance. He wanted them to be a unified feeling, one collective feeling of attachment and intense longing for him. So this is the 4th and 5th effects of aparad he's going to discuss now. One becomes slack in their bhakti. Let's see what he said. The 4th offense is slackness in devotion. Enthusiasm slackens. Some devotees, after some time, they start thinking they're superior to others. They start finding fault in devotees instead of absorbing their mind in seva. There's a great sentence that Sadhana gives now. This very amazing sentence. Fault finding becomes a major pastime in the name of sadhu sangha. That sounds pretty scary, but it's often true. Fault finding becomes a major pastime in the name of sadhu sangha. Such weak-minded sadhakas relish speaking about the deficiencies of others instead of talking harikatha. The effect of making offense like this, of slackness and devotion, one loses enthusiasm for one who's offending, fault finding, or rather, loses enthusiasm for bhakti. They slowly become more involved with taking care of their families and bodies, etc. As opposed to doing bhakti bhajan. There's a very thin line between taking care of physical needs and for the sake of bhakti, and also enacting them independently due to intense material identification. Offenses harden the heart and pervert the intelligence. The proof is that gradually people fall far away from bhakti, become fully engrossed in material activities. Now we'll describe the 5th effect of aparad, pride. Pride gives rise to further offenses, such as disrespecting Vaishnavas. The example is Daksha. Daksha, of course, is a Vaishnava, a progenitor, a very big personality. Who is his daughter?
Sati.
Sati, or Parvati Durga. But he became offensive to her husband Shiva. He also became offensive to Narada Muni because of pride. He said, I'm a big guy, I don't have to show respect to him. Here's a commentary. Bhakti is cultivated by feeling of humility. No one can really lay claim legitimately to anything that can be an object of pride. Our true identity as a Jivatma is smaller than an atom. We have no ability to do anything independent of Krishna. Pride leads to further offenses of insulting and criticizing others. If one is slack in devotion or loses faith, one may also commit other offenses. But if one is proud, one will definitely make other offenses. The mentality of pride is so detrimental that it often continues into future lives. Pride, they have a phrase in English, pride precedes a fall. Then he talks about how offenses can prevent us from remembering Krishna at the time of death. He declares in Gita 8:6, anyone who remembers Krishna at the time of death attains Krishna. If he chants or remembers and will attain him. But a person who has lingering offenses will probably not be able to chant Krishna's name at the time of death or remember him. But if one doesn't have offenses, he can remember. So commentator Sri Jiva is saying that when Jamil was dying, he didn't have any offenses because he was able to chant the holy name without offense, because he didn't have any offenses. Because every day he was making offenses, maybe he was making offenses, but he was also calling his son's name all the time, and that was for eliminating the offenses. So he was able to die without offenses, and he got liberated from all his sins, and then he went to Hardware, did Nam Bhajan, and went to Vaikuntha. So, although he was a sinner, he was free from offenses. Generally the case is, a sinful person is also an offender. So, that's it for that point. Yeah, I think, Jiva Goswami goes on more to explain that Jamil must have executed Bhakti in his past life, but his Bhakti was covered due to some offense. After undergoing sinful life as a husband of a prostitute, the result of the prior offense came to an end, because some sages came to visit him and advised him to name his 10th son Narayan. So he named him Narayan, did Nam Bhajan. So we'll continue next week with Anand Shade 161. He talks about remembering Bhagavan at the time of death. Yes.